Imagine you're a medical provider treating a patient with dizziness who speaks only French, and you rely on AI to translate the conversation. If you have developed a good mental model of the AI system and understand its weaknesses, you may recognize potential AI system's mistakes, like confusion in hospital names or medication. Then you may seek human intervention, ultimately leading to a better understanding of the patient's condition. However, without such a mental model, you may trust the translation blindly, misunderstand the patient's condition, and make the wrong clinical decision. So far, I've used a medical example, but this challenge extends more broadly to human-AI collaboration, including casual tasks or high-stakes decisions where errors can have serious consequences. To effectively use AI, users must understand the types of inputs and scenarios where this system performs reliably and the kinds of errors that might occur, so they can make informed choices about when to trust outputs or when to seek human intervention. This understanding of AI system strengths and limitation is a core component of users' mental model of AI system. And developing accurate mental models are critical for integrating AI recommendations into decision-making. While mental models have been studied in several AI domains, much less is known about how users form mental models of machine translation systems. Previous work provides a starting point for studying the role of mental model, but primarily focused on rather simpler classification or regression tasks, where models have relatively simple decision boundaries. In contrast, machine translation generates complex natural language outputs, where the evaluation requires considering multiple quality dimensions. Also, the AI system that studied before directly provides decisions for the final task, while in machine translation in the loop scenario, users must judge how to use them to make downstream decisions. As a result, it remains unclear how to study metamodels in the context of machine translation. We need novel approaches tailored to machine translation tasks. So in this research, we study how to measure users' mental model of speech translation system in human-AI collaboration scenario. Specifically, we first try to understand how user makes sense of patterns of strengths and weaknesses, and we further explore three primary research questions. First, how language proficiency affects the evaluation and development of mental models. Second, which input-output features users rely on to develop and update their mental models. And third, what types of explanations are most effective for updating a mental model. We propose to use a cross-single downstream task to measure the mental models of machine translation, where the user learns to recognize machine translation error patterns and refine their mental models as they progress. We choose reading comprehension question answering as a downstream task because it can measure translation quality by testing whether key information is preserved well enough to answer the question. The user listens to non-English source speech and sees its translated English version. The goal is to complete a question answering task using the translated English passage as effectively as possible. But the translation is not static. For each translation segment, here individual sentences, users can either accept the machine translation output as is or request a retranslation by a human professionals. To control for the possibility that user might answer questions using word knowledge rather than the translation, we rely on fixed question answering system, which allow us to isolate influence of their mental models on machine translation. The reward is decided by whether the question answering system answers correctly given the final translated input. To prevent users for getting professional translation for every segment, the reward decreases with every retranslation request. Using this framework, we investigate our research question. First, we aim to include participants with diverse language backgrounds. We hypothesize that users with higher source language proficiency will develop more detailed mental model by better detecting translation errors. However, even users with limited proficiency may still form meaningful mental models by observing error patterns across translations and contexts. In our second research question, we want to understand which characteristics they usually rely on to detect errors and update their mental models. We categorize naturally occurring speech translation errors according to their input and output feature into four main groups: rare words or named entities, phonetic ambiguity or noisy input, domain-specific errors, and finally, incompleteness or unnaturalness. Finally, providing appropriate explanations can help users better understand and predict system behavior. In our third research question, we investigate which explanations are most effective for helping users build mental models of machine translation system. We focus on two explanation types: transcription, which reveals how the system interpreted the source speech, and error highlights, which draw attention to potentially unreliable parts of the translation. With our framework and participants group defined, we now examine whether users update their mental models over time and how this process differs across proficiency levels. Left presents the regression plots of accuracy per question for every user group, which is higher the better. Right also shows the regression plots of simple regret, defined as the difference between the maximum possible reward and the actual reward, which is lower the better. The slope value in the legend of each plot reflects the average changes with each additional question. Overall, positive slopes in accuracy and negative slopes in simple regret, especially for higher source language proficiency group, suggest that users gradually refine their mental models. Next, we group questions by machine translation error types and analyze simple regret. Users most easily learn from incompleteness, unnaturalness, and phonetic noise, while topic-related errors remains the hardest to detect. Meanwhile, named entity and rare words shows little change because users already rely on them early on. Overall, incompleteness and phonetic noise are the most salient cues for mental model updates. Finally, we experiment with different explanation groups. Transcription were the most effective, particularly for intermediate users. They help users understand the source translation error and build better mental models. On the other hand, error-span improved accuracy but shows the lowest final score, possibly because they often promoted over-reliance rather than proper understanding. Finally, we analyzed participants' reflection notes. The traits they identified closely matched our predefined categories of translation errors, further supporting our findings. This is our summary. Thank you for watching.